Testing, 1, 2, testing. Hey guys, welcome to Empathic Chronicles. I'm your host, Tiffany Elise, and welcome back. I know it has been a minute since I have recorded an episode. I feel like I started this podcast during a very vulnerable time in my life, which is right now. And I want to talk about that a little bit in more detail. But I think that because of that, there have been opportunities that I have missed in recording because at the same time that I am sharing my story with you, I am also still healing and trying to process. And so much has happened, by the way, since the last time that I had an episode a few weeks ago. But May, as you're well aware, if you're not, May is Mental Health Awareness Month. And May is very special to me because, number one, I suffer from mental illness daily, more as an adult, probably now that I'm more conscious of it. And also, it is just a really good time in my life right now to focus on my mental health. To be honest, and just to remain transparent, I have multiple mental illnesses that I suffer from. And I don't know why I feel the way that I do sometimes. Like 1 minute I'm calm as a cucumber and the next minute I'm overreacting to something that really doesn't even carry weight in my life. Why do I let it bother me? Prepare. Okay. So for example, when preparing for big career moments, I don't know about you, but I feel a major sense of the obvious imposter syndrome where I feel like I am just, why can't I control myself? Why am I allowing this negative naysayer that lives on my shoulder to dictate how I behave? And what do said reactions when I do overreact or when I do take things and make them worse than they really are? What reactions like that make me look as a mother of 2 and a loving wife? But I got to the point after several years of trying to be quote unquote perfect and undo all of my mental and emotional abuse that I endured growing up and what that turned into for me mentally and now what I battle daily. I instead, am just a very high functioning anxious person, so I keep myself busy. Hence the reason why I have this podcast, because I'm also writing my first book, because I also work at a minimum 50 hours a week. I'm a workaholic. And it's not that I say it to as my kids say, to flex or to be oh, I'm better than thou. No, on the contrary, I am well aware of my flaws on how I make it so that I am so overwhelmed by having to do so many things that by the time that I actually get things done, it's not done the way that I would have wanted it because I felt in some way rushed. So all of those thoughts right there is literally a hamster wheel. So like I said, I think I've always had mental illness and that it just wasn't diagnosed until I became an adult. Obviously my mental health has impacted my life a lot. As if you haven't picked up already, I tend to be a bit more passionate than others. Some would say that I should have been an actress. And actually, even though my mom and I don't get along, she nicknamed me Drama Queen growing up. I still remember till this day when I literally had a mental breakdown and she was like, "Are you done?" And yeah, but let's talk about a day in middle school. Okay, so I remember a day in middle school when I was transported to the ER. I can't remember why, but I had an anxiety attack in the morning before school started. I probably didn't get much sleep the night before because my home late at night was often a revolving door. When my mom picked me up from the ER as we rode home, she asked, "Are you done with your temper tantrum?" I mean, it was normal for my emotions to be dismissed. It was normal to not feel good enough. It seemed like just my mom and I really never saw eye to eye. And I felt oftentimes that my mere existence bothered her to the core. And whenever I'd come out of my room while my mom or my brother was home, it was super brief and to avoid confrontation like as much as possible. My brother loved a good fight with me, and I'm talking a physical fight. I mean, he used to think that he wrestled for the World Wrestling Federation, body slamming me. I mean, bruises were normal. He couldn't stand me. And what my mom used to say was right. He and I couldn't breathe in the same room together without fighting. I don't know what really drove his hate and disgust for me. But I somehow feel like my brother resented me as the younger sibling. I mean, already facing abandonment issues from our parents, we often took it out on our frustrations on one another. So my mental health has worsened as I've aged. I had severe PTSD from things that happened to me growing up, and my anxiety and depression wore me out. I mean, by the time I had support on board in the form of a therapist and psychiatrist, I was well into my 20s, and I'm going to be 40 this year. So throughout the years with medication and therapy, I have been able to manage living a normal life. But there are still moments of adversity or when I feel like I'm going to crumble. And I am reminded of that naysayer on my shoulder that needs to be put in the corner. Now, I know I told you guys that literally, I would say almost 2 months ago now, or no, a month and a half, I was baptized with my older son and at our non-denominational Christian church that we attend. And it was so hard for me mentally and emotionally to go through that process. Not that I didn't enjoy it. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. And what I felt could never be compared to anything in this world. But I've always been a crier at church. I don't know. I am that person. Okay. I've just always been super emotional at church. Church music, praying out loud, having people stand over you and pray, just the mere sense of community. I don't know. I've always enjoyed it. And believe it or not, for so many years, I didn't go to church at all. I don't know why. I kind of just fell off, the radar, if you will, as does most things. But I am very happy and very proud to say that we have been consistently going every Sunday, my older son and I, to church, whether it be virtual or in person. And I do feel that it has helped me. It has helped me as a mom. It has helped me as a wife. I feel that it does lend to having faith and having hope that things will get better. I can't just rely on doctors and therapists for me to feel recovered or healed. It is clear, and which is why I made this episode not only now that it's Mental Health Awareness Month, but also because Mother's Day was just around the corner. And it's hard. It's hard having Mother's Day, being a mom and not being able to talk to your own mom, or, hoping that Mother's Day is the Mother's Day that your mom calls you, and instead you're sent a Bitmoji. It's hard. It's hard to have hope for someone that is never going to love me the way that I need to be loved. You think it doesn't hurt me that I have that the relationship with my mom is the way that it is? It kills me. It's very much the reason for why I often cry from time to time. Because there's parts of your life where you just want your mom, or you just want your dad, or you just want someone to care for you and just tell you, hey, everything's going to be okay. And I don't have that luxury. And sometimes I'm even jealous of my husband's relationship with his mom because they are so close and because she's always just a phone call away. Despite the fact that my husband's an apostate from having grown up as a Jehovah's Witness, yet his mom still talks to him almost daily. And my mom is none of the above and can't just for a second pick up the phone and call me and see how I'm doing or see how her grandkids are without sending a text message that an Amazon gift card was purchased. It's just so fake. And so like I mentioned earlier in the episode, I started going to therapy again. I'm very happy. I'm enjoying it. I like this therapist. So far, so good. I don't feel immediately like judged when I say things, which is, part of experiences that I've had in the past, or like my stuff is too hardcore for some therapists. That's happened to me before. But then I've also had some amazing therapists throughout my life, like the therapist that passed away from a heart attack literally like a day after my session with him. So I've had some really impactful therapists in my life. And so we'll see how it goes. But where I'm getting at is that during our most recent conversation, it dawned on me what she was telling me. And what she said is, you have to lower your expectations for your mom. You have to do the same thing for your dad. You continue, and mind you, this year I'm turning 40. You continue to think that it is possible for your parents to love you the way that you want to be loved. But the fact is that maybe they just don't know how, because maybe they were never loved. And that is absolutely true of my mom, because I remember her talking about her messed up childhood as well. But instead of breaking the cycle and being the difference, it was repeated with me. And as the middle child, I was always the one picked on. So while my heart does break for my mom, all I've ever wanted her to do is just acknowledge that she wasn't a great mom and that she could have been there for me. And that everything that she missed out on can be made up for. And that there's never going to come a time where I'm going to just completely shut her out of my life. You know what I did when she sent me that Bitmoji for Mother's Day? I replied, "I love you." Do you think she replied back? No. Because that's the way she is. I don't know if she doesn't know how to type "I love you too," but the fact is that she doesn't do that. Literally, I got 3 words from my dad on Mother's Day, to which I said thank you. Like, I just have never had parents who seek me, who want me to know that they care about me. And as a parent of 2 teenagers, I can't imagine not giving that love and that care to my children. I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you're turning 40 this year. It wouldn't kill you to say I love you. It wouldn't kill you to express your feelings, to be vulnerable. It is no longer the way that it used to be. Parenting, if you've heard of gentle parenting, that's a real thing. And my husband and I have learned it the hard way, because it kind of started happening during this high school era that we're in. Like, it's not easy. Okay, but you have to be sensitive to your children's feelings. My parents were never sensitive to my feelings. On the contrary, my feelings were always a burden. And how dare I bring it up? And how dare I even have the nerve to compare to what anyone else is going through in the house? So what did you think I do most of the time? Just stay quiet. So the moral of the story is, Mother's Day isn't always the happiest day for me, but this year I said enough is enough. I had an amazing Mother's Day with my kids. We went to the happiest place on earth because that's just what we do. And I lived my best life. I decided that she was no longer going to have that control over me where my mind and my feelings and my heart break. That if I would have just been the way that I used to be, that Bitmoji that she sent me would have ruined my entire day. And I would have been sitting there waiting for her to say I love you too back in the text message. That's not who I am anymore. My father doesn't talk to me because he demands an apology for me defending my children to whom he was not treating well. And I will not give that apology. It's my time to be the mother and the parent and the one for my kids that no one can ever replace. And that is the love between a parent and a child. And I do think that in today's society, if more parents were receptive to breaking generational curses, which I know many that have, and you go girl, way to go man. Like I know so many people, in my eyes that have made such an impact. And you can imagine what that is on a world scale. You don't have to repeat the cycle. Like you can stop and you can change the trajectory of how your story ends. Your past is not something that you are a prisoner of. And that's another thing that I learned in therapy. See, I'm giving out all this free therapy advice. Y'all better pay me. Just kidding. I learned in therapy that it is very normal to go down the path of pity and victimization and all that. It is less likely that you will go down the path of least resistance. But if you change your expectations, like I mentioned earlier, if you realize the, let's say, better than not positives, if you will, that came out as a result of what happened to you, your mindset will change. You won't be waiting at that door anymore, waiting for one of them to call you. You will not be staring at your cell phone. If they want to be a part of your life, if there's someone in your family that you really wish you had a relationship with them, but it's never worked out, it has to work both ways. It's just like any relationship, whether it be a friendship, whether it be anything. You have to work at it. And I think that my mom and my dad are emotionally immature and unable to deal with that. So I have made the decision to spend the rest of my life being vulnerable, having humility. It's okay to say that you were wrong and be sorry. You're not supposed to be perfect. When your child sees that version of you, things change. When your child sees that you are okay with making mistakes, that you can say, I love you, even when you're having the worst of days, those little things mean so much more. Now, mind you, I am very far from perfect, and there are days where I just make horrible mistakes in my parenting. But I admit when I'm wrong, or I justify my reasoning. and we will communicate and have a conversation about it. None of this sweeping under the rug or what have you. Now, mind you, there's a time and place, so let it be an appropriate time and place. But we will talk about it and we will process through it, because that's exactly why we're a family. We're in this together. We have the ability to change what everyone thinks our path to the future is. Just repeating that cycle, just repeating that generational curse, just, imposing those bad influence behaviors and things of that nature. No, screw that. We have the power to change the ending of the story. And that is what I am all about. And that is why I am writing a book on how I have tried my entire life up to date to break the cycle and be the difference. So I am so thankful that you stuck around for this episode, because it's a little bit of a, sensitive topic. But if you or someone you know has and is or dealing with family type issues, parental type issues with your children, listen to this episode. Listen to my other episode that I have on parenting. Write it out. Phone a friend. You're not in this alone. Head over to Instagram and like and follow my Tiffany Elise Inc. page, or our Empathic Chronicles podcast Instagram page, and write to me. You're not alone. In this life, there is but one. Make the best of it. Live your best life. Give yourself credit where credit is due and more. You deserve the very best. My name is Tiffany Elise. I am your host, and thanks for listening.